In a small, quiet town, there was a legend about an old doll that was said to be cursed. The doll had been in the possession of the Hargrove family for generations, passed down through the female line. It was a porcelain doll with a delicate face, dressed in a Victorian gown, but its eyes, two dark, unblinking orbs, were said to follow you wherever you went. The story begins with Emily Hargrove, a young girl who had recently inherited the doll from her great-grandmother. Emily was thrilled by the gift despite her mother's warnings. "It's just an old doll," her mother had said dismissively, but Emily couldn't shake the feeling that something was off about it. One night, as the wind howled outside, Emily placed the doll on a small chair by her bedside and went to sleep. At around midnight, she was jolted awake by a strange noise, a soft, rhythmic tapping. She sat up and looked around her dark room but saw nothing out of place. The noise continued, coming from the direction of the chair. With a mixture of fear and curiosity, Emily crept out of bed and approached the doll. To her horror, she noticed that the doll's eyes seemed to be moving. The tapping was coming from the doll's tiny porcelain feet, which were now slightly raised off the ground. Emily's heart raced as she tried to rationalize what she was seeing. She reached out to touch the doll, but as soon as her fingers brushed its cold surface, the tapping stopped abruptly. The doll's eyes seemed to lock onto hers with a chilling intensity. Emily quickly picked up the doll and placed it back in its box, locking it with a heavy padlock her mother had insisted they use. But the doll's presence lingered in her mind. The next few nights were plagued with unsettling dreams of shadowy figures and whispers in the dark. One morning, Emily found that the box was unlocked and the doll was missing. Desperate to rid herself of the doll, Emily asked her mother to help her dispose of it. They wrapped it in several layers of fabric and buried it in the backyard, far from the house. For a while the disturbances stopped, and Emily hoped that the doll was finally gone. Months passed, and Emily slowly forgot about the unsettling events. But one night, as she was getting ready for bed, she noticed a strange object on her dresser, a delicate Victorian gown, eerily similar to the one the doll had worn. She turned around and saw the doll sitting on her bed, its eyes fixed on her with an expression that seemed almost triumphant. Emily screamed, but no one heard her. The next morning her parents found her room empty and the doll lying on the floor, but Emily was nowhere to be found. The authorities searched the house and the yard, but there was no sign of her. To this day, the doll remains in the Hargrove home, sitting quietly on a shelf in the attic. Occasionally the neighbours report hearing soft tapping sounds coming from the old house, and some say they've seen a little girl's shadow moving past the windows. But whenever anyone goes to investigate, they find nothing, only the old doll staring silently with its unblinking eyes. Credits, written by author's name, narrated by narrator's name.